opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website and mbradio.us. We got to bless the show before we get started. Let's go. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. All right, welcome to KCAA Radio 106.5 FM at 1050 AM. Hey, we're streaming live, so we're going to get this together for you tonight. We are in the studio, listening in at 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also stream from the KCAA Radio.com website and MBR Radio. It's Sunday night. What can I say? We got a very spectacular show for you as always. Got a live studio guest here. We got Alain Emmanuel on the line, and we might have Robert Lamar in the zone. I sent him the link, so he might be chiming in tonight as well. So with no further ado, let me introduce my live guest, man. How you doing tonight, man?
How you guys doing? My name is Maiki Jackson.
Man, I appreciate you for hanging out tonight, man.
Oh, man, it's nothing. Really love the atmosphere, man. Just love the energy.
I appreciate you for hanging in there. We were, putting this together tonight, this audio technical difficulty stuff. But I appreciate you hanging out. We are strangers. We literally just met a couple of days ago. I own the Oxnard or the Ventura Orcas. Also, I own the Riverside County Mavericks, and the Orcas are launching this year. And so my guy, he's going to share his story, but he was looking out for some teams, came across our page and hit me up. And so we're going to get into some conversations about that. He also is a military veteran as well. So instantly blood brothers, veterans, we're all friends, family. When we meet, when you know a veteran serve, it's like a totally different dynamic. It's like a brotherhood, sisterhood. So instantly connected, and here to have a discussion with him. Also, what's up, man? You're muted, man. I can't hear you, man. Yeah, you're on mute. It's okay. Yeah, there you go. Take yourself off mute. You don't know how to do it? Right there. Right there, right there. There you go.
I did it.
Did you do it or did I do it? Because I don't know which one.
I don't know.
Man, introduce yourself real quick, man, and let them know who you are. Man.
You know, it's Alain Emmanuel, the happiness coach and therapist here in the state of Georgia, Atlanta.
Hey, I can hear myself in your room, man.
Huh?
Oh no, I was talking to him over there.
Yeah, we're here live and in color. It is this month is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah. As we've talked about mental health for the last few months.
Yeah.
Last month we did.
But I think it's gonna be awesome to have a conversation around why we even need to have a conversation separate for minorities with mental health. I think that sometimes I think because we have come so far in the conversation around our society and racism, we don't realize that there is such a thing called a generational trauma.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely gonna touch on that. Let me bring up to the deck the one and only. Who's in the zone, man? What's up?
What it do, everybody? How y'all doing
be,
tonight?
Man? How you be?
I'm good. Hey, I got the laptop.
I see.
Hey, you said we could do it anywhere. Well, hell, I'm in the basement.
He's in the basement, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Lamar is in the zone with us tonight, man.
Mr. Emmanuel.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for asking. I'm great. How are you?
I can tell, man, the way you smiling, man. I know you got a lot going on.
all day, all night.
Hey,
right.
Rob, it's 11 o'clock over there where he at. That's why he's smiling. It's
Hey,
past
if he's
his
smiling
bedtime
like that at
already.
11 o'clock, I wish I was him.
Listen.
So, Robert, man, give us some back. Where you been? What's been going on?
Oh man, it's been crazy. As you know, we just lost somebody very dear to us.
Yeah.
And doesn't even seem real. Like it's like jumping off on your boat and getting swept away by a riptide is just really unimaginable. And it's just really tragic because you introduced me to Melvin when he was a guest on our show.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a really good thing going on with Skylar and me. And I left and I did my thing there, and this whole Robert Lamar thing just went into a whole nother zone, man. It really took off. And he really he helped get me there. But as you always said, like, that was always there. It was gonna happen regardless.
That was in the radio class, man.
Yeah, right.
That guy.
But he really believed in the talent, in the vision, and right when everything starts to go through, he's not going to be here to see it. So that just really breaks my heart. But end of the day, we just have to keep it going.
Yeah. And
that's all we can do, because the crazy part is, as loved as you are, life goes on.
Yeah.
That's the cold part.
That's what I recognized when my dad passed, when my grandfather passed. It was like, man, life still goes on, man. So that grieving process for many human beings, I think, is something that is a tough conversation to have. But shouts out to Melvin, man. I wore the Scholar Me shirt last week because, like you said, it's just not. It don't even seem real, man. But he will always be in our thoughts, man.
Sorry for y'all loss, man.
Yeah,
he was really good.
Yeah, he was legit.
And there's still no funeral services as of right now. I'll keep everybody posted once we find out stuff. We're just sorting out everything. It's a lot. I practically, as the social media guy for Scholar Me, I've been dealing with everybody, and it's been a little overwhelming. I haven't really been writing as much as lately.
Yeah.
I've had my son, so it's been good having him and staying busy, but I'm not 100% all there, and I understand that. So I'm just trying to just mentally work myself out of that, just understanding mentally that, I need to grieve.
No doubt.
Go through the process of getting through the process.
No doubt.
And that's the landmark in us.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, man.
All right, man. I appreciate you, man, for hanging out with us. Let me play this PSA. This is Call Me Go, our sponsor, and then we'll be right back on the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, MBRradio.us. We'll be right back.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Yeah.
exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn, are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. You know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait, there's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org. You're listening to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM in the Inland Empire. Also streaming from the KCAARadar.com website, MBR Radio, TuneIn Radio, Pandora, Google Play, Blog Talk Radio, iHeartRadio, Podcast, Stitcher, Amazon Radio, just to list a few. Oh yeah, and the streaming videos are located at Tiki Live or Rumble under the Farron Dozier Show. Catch us live or catch us on the archives at Farron Dozier Show. Shout us out, What's the Count? Visit farrond.com for more information. All right, we're going to try something new. What you going to do? All right. Introduce yourself, man, to the listeners one more time, man.
Oh, yeah. My name's Makai. How y'all doing, man? What's up, Robert Lamar?
Okay.
Alain, the happiness coach. He can't get the smile off.
Right?
His
Still
face.
smiling.
That's how we do.
Well, I've known Alan since about 2011 or 12. I met Robert in radio school in 2015, I believe. And we've been hanging tough ever since, man. They didn't even have a sports broadcasting part of the school there at all. But he was doing a lot of his assignments on sports. Okay. And I was doing the sports show in LA, and I was like, bro, come hang out, man. Just come hang out. So
heck yeah.
We've been tight ever since. So I appreciate these guys for hanging out.
Now they got a sports curriculum now because of Robert Lamar.
Exactly.
I get that twisted.
Exactly. They ain't even ready for us.
I was just thinking, I knew you before I had grays.
Before we both had girls. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. When you hear about mental health, mental toughness, what comes to mind for you?
To be honest, it really hits home now that I know a little more about it. But when you said that just now, it just took me back to being a black man when it comes to stuff like that.
Ooh.
They really tell you, older people tell us to suffer in silence. And then it go back to the military. They tell you suffer in silence. So now mental health is like, boo. I get overwhelmed because you don't think that this can affect you because you're some big, strong black man. Yeah. But that's what really takes us out.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's why this minority mental health part of this month is so important for me, because we think it's just us as black men deal with it, but it's a human being flaw across the board. If we tell the truth, whites, Hispanics, European whites, whatever, Irish, Polish, German, like when you peel that layer off of mental health, man, it's a human being issue. And that's why I appreciate Alan, because with his school background now, we could have some tough conversations and he could correct me if I get off track. But it's so important. I'm gonna say this part before we get into it, Alan, because working with Caldwell, who's been doing mental health education for 60 plus years with his curriculum. Yeah. One of the things that stood out from me learning from him is how everyone deals with some type of emotional wound, some fractured integrity. And when he talks about the inclusion of not what you do for me, but the inclusion of my experience that you point to being this black man in the world, it's like, what is the first thing that comes to my mind is I don't belong, right? And if I grew up in an environment that taught me that I don't belong, then how do you think I'm going to respond to the world as it's coming at me? And when he said that, well, guess what, Farron? Those second-class citizens that came to the United States, fleeing their countries, trying to get away from war and all this other stuff, they came to the United States with that same emotional wound that we say that we suffer with as our ancestors who came from slavery and being enslaved and all those different dynamics. So it's not just the Black community, it is a people issue. And when he told me that the Irish, the Germans, the Polish, they came to this United States and they was in their own ghettos back east. They didn't get along either. Right? So when you look at it from that whole perspective, it's like we're just a part of this conversation, but it affects us mostly because our culture as the Black culture is we have such an emotional wound in our past that it's going to take something to acknowledge that past, but then deal with it today. Who are we today? It's our turn today, right? Exactly. And how do we maneuver that with some principles, with some telling the truth about ourselves, about where we are today? But I want to tell the listeners, if you're white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever, if we all tell the truth as a culture, as the United States, as a people, we all deal with something. Yeah. And even the whites who are not the European whites was the only one that wasn't hyphenated. Irish Americans, Polish Americans, they were all hyphenated until 1981. And then Ronald Reagan and Lee Atwater unhyphenated them so they could check the white box. But guess what that did for those whites? They were included by race now, which is another level of emotional wound because now I'm in by race, so I'm good. Exactly. So it's like we dealing with all that, but we want to be friends. We want to work together. We want to hang out. I got to work with this guy over here. Lucky he's not, anyway, but still. So Alan, man, how do we kick this conversation off, man? Because
I like
today we're just gonna touch on the awareness piece. We're just gonna drop some little bit of awareness piece of it.
Yeah, but I like what you said. I like what you said about telling the truth, because I honestly believe that a part of what's missing in the conversation around what it looks like is telling the truth. Because if you are having a conversation around what it means to be a Black man in America, like you said, if you go back, somebody could say, well, my ancestors had this and my ancestors had that. Anytime you are unable to tell your story from your side of the story, there's going to be impacts on the way you show up in the world. And your mental health is essentially the place where you get to either self-express or it gets condensed down, it gets pushed down, and you don't get to do that, right? And men tend to hold it in because we're socialized that way a lot of times, where it's like, don't talk about it, don't say nothing, don't feel it, don't experience it. Right. So we push it down so far down
That's what he said.
we don't even begin to experience it. But when you said tell the truth,
that's the first piece.
The truth is that each one of us has a story.
Right.
And this is why the minority awareness of mental health matters, is because that story you're telling about belonging, we all have that at our core. We all want to feel like we belong somewhere, right? When you take a people, and this is just to tell that story, when you take a people out of their natural habitat, as Dr. Sebi would say, with the gorillas, with the people that we used to, and then you place them someplace and you don't give them their food. Right. You take away their culture. You take away their identity because you stopped calling them kings and queens and you now started calling them other things. Right. So now there's a sense of I can't actually express myself as a full human being. Right. That is where at the core each one of us experiences mental health differently, because mine might be, well, you told me that I was, the N word that I don't use, but I was the N word. So now when I start to show up in society, guess what shows up? It's the trauma for what.
Whoa. Robert, you went, Alan, you went dark, man.
He wants scary movie time. It's like,
somebody didn't like that comment that he made over there. He about to let him have it, wasn't it?
Hey, bro, went to the sucking place.
For you, Robert, what does that mean for you, man?
Pretty much what, masking your trauma?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say something really weird. When I was younger, I'd never cried or anything because, death, losing homies like every month, in the middle of gang wars, man, it was just normal, unfortunately. And
that was our era.
Then you get used to it. It was kind of like it was expected. And then me being older, man, it's just when I think about it, it just makes me just so emotional because I didn't deal with that then. That's
a lot of the stuff. I'm sorry to cut you off, because I'm literally going through that now. Losing homies and people going to jail for 22 to life that I was with. That it's a bunch of stuff to where it's once you sit down and exhale, like this isn't normal. Once you start getting out in life and talking to these other people, just it doesn't matter, black, white, whatever. You I didn't grow up normal. I couldn't even mourn my grandma dying because I was gonna be labeled this and that. Exactly. My homie dying because of this and that.
And I like what you said, man, because what it does is, as I think about us as veterans, right? Now you serve, we're gonna get into that part too. You serve too. So now we're talking about that aspect of having to not grieve our family members and then join this military branch of service where now you really can't show no emotions. For me, that was the icing on the cake. So it's now you're dealing with all that and having friends in the service die or whatever happens to them. When do you get to express that?
Yeah.
After 1730 formation. Because it was to the point where when you going through all that stuff back home, and they don't really care. But then let's say my roommate passed away. And then not too long after that, one of my friends had passed away in the service. We live in the same building. It's 0630 work call in the morning still.
Yeah.
The world, you said it, the world don't stop. We still got stuff to do, and it's okay, what am I supposed to do now? I'm not feeling right. I'm not feeling okay. You got to mask that and you got to keep going. That's how they want you to be.
Yeah.
So Robert, I take that as an example of the military, but then you put this on athletes, right? And now you're an athlete and your parents are going, grandma dies or your mom or dad dies or family member dies or a friend dies, and you got to play sports and you got to get on the court. You got to go play this championship game, and you never get to express that or deal with that grief or even the divorce.
You seen what they did to Isaiah Thomas? His sister died. The cameras are in his face. And soon as he walked in the building, it's not, you have no time.
You have no time.
Yeah.
Thank God he performed that night. But and you still see how they treat you.
They don't care. I mean, it's being in media, and this goes back to what with my mentor passing away. I get a DM from the news anchor for the local Vegas news, and she wants me to give some information about my boy. And initially, I was pretty pissed, but as a journalist, you have to understand that that's their job.
Yeah.
So you can't be upset with them doing their job. It's just that with me, that's my boy. So I'm not going to if the family's not talking about it,
Yeah,
Of course
exactly. Yeah.
I'm not saying anything. And then when it became public and this, you know, and the information got out, then I said what I said. But you know, sports is a really good coping mechanism when it comes to tragedy, though. Actually, you know,
you're still suppressing it though, bro.
You're suppressing it, but it's for one, you got to understand it's not a solution, it's not an answer, but it's a part-time distraction that's going to last maybe 2 hours.
You're right on that part.
And then when all that adrenaline gets down, you're tired, and then you got to deal with that afterwards. You know, I dealt with that, you know, as an athlete, and I thank God that I had sports when I was dealing with my issues. Because if I didn't, then I probably would have resorted to something else.
A lot of people resort to drugs,
right?
A bunch of other stuff. That's why when you was saying that, how you described it, that's just how a fiend describes how they mask up their pain. They go shoot up or do whatever they do, and hopefully when they come down, they too tired or too out of it to even process
where they
to deal with it. That's how I literally do my stuff. I go to the gym and I try to get as tired as I can possible, so my brain can't even think about this stuff.
Wow. You know, Alan, man, you know, my goal is to have in these next coming 3 episodes some different background, working on Hispanic, Asian descent background. So we're gonna talk about this minority with other coaches, but since we're all black men tonight, we might as well just
we might as well go for it.
We might as well just hang out right here, right?
Yeah.
And so the last piece for my guy here is that military, man. You know, you have a identity as a basketball player. You got identity as a veteran, and probably some other identities that we take on. But how do you manage that military identity? You know, being out of the service when you got out.
How do I manage it as far as just
living life through it? Yeah, because you serve, so there's a military identity in there.
As a man, you really, once you find yourself, and then that's what helped me find myself in the military. I went in at 18, so you just got to embrace it. I love it. Just they gave me something I didn't know about myself. I'm a warrior. Mm-hmm. So I've always want to thank the military. You just got to embrace it to the fullest, man. Just everywhere I go, hey, I'm military. Or when I see somebody with a military hat on, I go up and thank them, because you just got to, I don't know, man. It's that pride, that integrity you got in you, they instill into you. You just love it.
Tell them what branch and your time of service, man.
Army. I did 3 years and 24 weeks. I count the weeks.
Counted the weeks. The weeks are on there and days are on there too.
You better count them weeks.
As soon as I went and signed my contract, they said 3 years, 24 weeks. I remembered it. They ain't had to tell me no more. They shipped me. I had a scholarship to Cal Berkeley right out of high school. Kind of messed that up. I'm from Compton, California. You can only imagine the stuff that I thought was cool coming up.
Yeah.
I ended up finding out me and my girl was having a kid. I immediately signed up for the Army. I'm like, I refuse to die and not see my kid, because I couldn't see myself like older. Usually you could picture yourself older. I was scared of dying in the streets.
Yeah.
That was the time the police just had killed a young guy who was like 25 years old in Compton. So I was so scared. I'm like, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die for something. My family is going to be able to bury me. They're not doing a car wash on the side. They're not doing none of that. So that's what my whole thing was. I just had to get out of here.
So you got street mental toughness from your environment.
Yes.
The basketball, military, a father. Father is, ladies and gentlemen, father is a role, not a person. So it is a role, and sometimes you have to learn to be a father and take on that role.
Thank you, because I did not know how to be a dad. I didn't know how to be. No, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to be a father.
Yeah.
I just thought I can just come in and throw some money because I was in the military, come in and out. No, you have to instill that time.
Mm-hmm.
And once you instill that time, you will know. My daughters come in and have sleep, and they step over mama, and they come lay on top of dad. That's how you know. And my daughters wouldn't even. I couldn't even hold my oldest daughter when I got out the military because she just was like, "Who is this?
Who is this?"
Like, I'm the dude that sent you all that money, girl.
That's all like my daughter Brittany. She was like, when we healed, she was like, Dad, I realized and she was like 25 that you served, you didn't abandon me, you didn't care about me, you was in the military at the time. It was like, thank God that she finally got
exactly.
Dang.
And that's the thing. There's all these conversations which we talk about all the time, but there's all these conversations going on in our heads. And when this is what I was saying before I left and got disconnected, there's this reality, right? That all of us want to be seen, all of us want to be heard. And the moment you discount somebody's ability to speak their truth where they are, at that point, you're going to have effects on their mental health. And this is something that I find doing couples therapy that I do. I deal with these Black men that come into my space where I'm doing therapy with them and realizing you didn't get a chance to say what you felt. Mm-hmm. Or a lot of times you didn't even know you felt it. I mean, I have guys that come in and they tell me that, no, I didn't feel that, I thought it. And it's like they don't realize that the thought itself is a part of the feeling experience.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? So they have this disconnection to themselves because it's like, no, I don't have any emotions around that. I just thought this. And I'm like, that thought right there, that was your feeling that you didn't express because to you, it wasn't a feeling. To you, it was just an idea. But the truth is, if you don't process that stuff and start to be able to express what it is you believe in, you stand for, you have experienced, what it does is it gets in the way of you being able to show up as your full self to the people in your life, right? So it's crucial to know that.
Ellen, let me play this PSA real quick, and we're gonna come back because I want to drop a question on y'all specifically to this minority mental health as us as Black men. We can only speak from our own personal experience, but I'm gonna ask a specific question. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Hey, if you got to get out of your car and you listen to us on the radio right now, AM, FM, go to kcaradio.com, click listen live or watch live, or go to the Facebook of the Farron Dozier Show or Sports Collective Radio YouTube page as well. We are streaming there live, plus on TikTok, on MBR. Just go to any of the MBR platforms. We're streaming on those as well, Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, all those Facebook pages. All right, the Farron Dozier Show right here on KCA Radio.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
You're listening to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM in the Inland Empire. Also streaming from the KCAARadar.com website, MBR Radio, TuneIn Radio, Pandora, Google Play, Blog Talk Radio, iHeartRadio, Podcast, Stitcher, Amazon Radio, just to list a few. Oh yeah, and the streaming videos are located at Tiki Live or Rumble under the Farron Dozier Show. Catch us live or catch us on the archives at Farron Dozier Show. Shout us out, what's the count? Visit farrond.com for more information.
Your mother tried to make it easy, but we was some knuckles though. We used to let them knuckles throw. We used to let them chuckles go when we thought about the places we would go. Yeah, lights off. Yeah, no, really. Lights off. Yeah, no money. Lights off. Under the candlelight.
Tune in to the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Brought to you by Sports Collective TV, Sports Collective Radio, and Sports Collective Media. We got the Heme Factor, we got In the Zone, and we got Fourth Down in the 20-second timeout sports segment. All for you right here on the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website with my guest hosts Robert Lamar and Coach Will. Catch us on Sports Collective Media on Instagram and Facebook. And make sure you watch us Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website. Music, talk, sports, and so much more on the Farron Dozier Show. All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Makai is in the building. Like I said, we just really meeting face to face. We text on the cell phones. We realizing tonight that we're both 92 Yankee supply sergeants. He talked about a change of command inventory.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
No weekends, no nothing. You just
Oh my gosh!
dang. But that's where you get a lot of your juice at because you're really working directly with the commander. So that's where you get a lot of your juice at.
Yeah, no doubt, man. All right, we are back. I got Robert Lamar in the zone. I got Alain Emmanuel, who's hanging out with us real late on the other side of it. But I want to ask this, and it's not. We say this, you know, as Black men, and then this whole conversation flows out. But do you gentlemen think that it's more impacted by us in our own families than it is in society, or is it mixed? Because I think it's from our family first, right? And I say that because of the work that I've done the last 14 years. You talking about breaking generational consequences. I don't like generational curses. I like generational consequences. Like I broke mine. I broke mine from my parents, right? I broke mine. And then I went to my three daughters to help them break theirs from me, right? So I think it starts in the home. And I think that if parents got educated about what it is to be a father and a mother and the responsibilities before you have a child, then we can have these kind of talks. So you can, then when you have your child, you have some kind of basis of knowledge of what it is to be a father or mother. But I believe it starts in the home first, more than it is society.
So the question you got to ask, two questions you got to ask is, what makes up society? That's the first question.
Like Jesus Christ. You always got to answer a question with a question.
You got two questions. What makes up society, right? So how do we know that we are part of a society if it's not with the family, right? And then the second question, when you say, is it happening inside the family or is it something from the outside? And my question is, do we understand the impact of repeated actions, right? Because what happened with my great-great-great-grandfather, right, has an automatic effect on my great-great-grandfather's offspring. Our children pick up a lot more information from us by the way we behave than they do by the things we say. So a lot of times we think, well, you know, I didn't pass that on to my child. Yeah, you did. You did. What you didn't realize is that the child was paying attention to your energy more than they even paid attention to the words that came out your mouth, because that child wanted to exist in a certain space.
That is so right, because this ties back in to exactly what you said. We want some sense of belonging. That's how I took treating women. I took that from my dad because I wanted to be like my dad so much that I will take the stuff he says and does to women or how he treats them so he can see me. So I can be like, look, I'm like you, look.
Not knowing that's not the right.
But I was just watching him. He didn't know I was watching him and thinking that if he would have knew that I was thinking that was cool, he probably would have switched everything up.
Exactly.
I guarantee you, if you stop right now and ask yourself just to write a list of the things that represent things you did, not that your parents taught you with their words, but that they taught you by the way they did things. That list is way longer than the things they actually told you to do. You understand? Because we pick up on the patterns that we see our parents do. Now, there is another conversation to be had. There's no question, like I said, what makes up a society. So you have families that come together and behave a certain way around a certain experience. Let's call it what it is, like say racism, right? You have families that gather around that word racism, and guess what? You start to build a certain culture around the commonalities you have with those families. That determines now a particular cultural group that you have and the things we carry in common. A lot of things, even down to food. You look at some of the foods that were passed down and why we have high rates of high blood pressure and heart disease. Why would we not think the same thing happens with our mental health? Do you understand? There are things that we consume within our minds that are cultural, because this is how we learn those patterns, and then they show up later on through mental health diseases, illnesses, and sometimes just maladapting. So
let me pass it to Robert. Man, what you hear, Robert? You got children.
Yeah. Definitely the home. It starts in the home. I mean, we know where we're from. We know what we're against. We know what we deal with. But despite all that, there's so many opportunities to like really make something out of yourself outside.
That's my
and
point.
It's definitely the house. I BS you not. It really goes back to if you're talking about your parents, like how they were raised, like how your grandparents raised them, like what they went through, and practically what adjustments were made when it was our time.
Adjustment.
It's adjustment.
That's a big one. Adjustment.
Man, and the thing is like it all depends on what was going on in that house. It's like there's some stuff as a teenager that you would not understand until you become an adult. So,
no, that right there, Robert, is something that, you know, in our education that we took Landmark, I learned at 40 that my perception was corrupted. But it wasn't just corrupted by my parents and their adjustments that they tried to make, you know, having me, but it was also my own mind trying to understand life as a child with no sense of time, no sense of none of that, but yet my brain is growing and developing, and I'm giving meaning to all these things that you see mom do, dad do. Why they do this? Why you look at me like that? Why is this? Why is this? And if without that information from the parent, then I'm gonna make up my own story, and now my story becomes my truth, and nothing you tell me can change that, because I got proof and evidence for my story, and that becomes my truth, and it may be against you, and you're like, what are you talking about? But yeah, this is my evidence, and so this to me, that's the battle is. And when you talk about reconciliation and forgiveness, you got to reconcile yourself back to yourself first before you can even go to your parents. I mean, you can go to your parents, but for information, but at the end of the day, you still I had to go back and challenge the first 40 years of my life, as Robert said, because I was like, this got to be a better life than this, man. Like I was ready to take my life, bro. Like, and all of a sudden I heard my mind say, it's got to be something better. It's got to be something better.
That's good, because you know what? here's the thing. A part of our entire existence, we all know this, is creating meaning. We're like creating these meanings around what's happening. Yeah. But that connection to yourself, right, comes from the different meanings that you've ascribed and collected. Yeah. And this is where you always hear me say this. Awareness is the first key. It's the step number one. You have to even know that you are creating a story. I can't tell you how many men I work with on this level that come in, and it's not until we go through several sessions that they're like, oh, that's my story. Yeah. Oh, I made that up. Not made up from like thin air. No, I had a bunch of experiences and I came up with a story about what this means to me. And
to survive that pain.
Can I take it to the next level?
Yeah, go ahead. Take it.
If you take that same perspective that we are all individually creating our stories and then telling our stories, right? There's also a collective story. Mm-hmm. And we have to come to terms with the fact that there is a collective story that needs to be retold. Yeah. Now that's the next level, you guys. When we talk about racism impacting, Black men, because we're talking about Black men tonight, you gotta be willing to have that conversation around. Wait a minute, there's a second level right here, and I know we elevating right now, but we gotta elevate. Look, if we could tell a different story about ourselves that is aware of the stories that we've been told about us, and be willing to accept that the next story is ours to tell. Right. It's not somebody else to put on you. That is where freedom begins. Exactly. You understand what I'm saying? Because true freedom is when you get to dictate your story. It's not his story. It's your story. It's my story. So a part of what needs to happen in becoming the kind of balanced individuals that we look to Black men to be is to retell the stories that don't work for us anymore. Right. And there are enough of those stories that we have not been willing to retell because we're afraid of the fact that we won't belong to the group if we retell. Now, exactly. I'm going to leave that alone, but I'm just saying we need to elevate.
As you said about if your pops would have known what you was being aware of, he may have changed his tone. Sure. But now that you understand where it came from, have you dealt with that? Like,
so have I talked to him about it?
Or just with yourself?
No, I talked to myself about it, and I was trying to come to terms on why he was doing this or why I even thought that was cool. Yeah. And I got deeper into it. I was like, I just wanted to be closer to my dad. And hopefully that would have got him, because my dad was there, but when it comes to voicing your opinion and stuff like that, no, he was just like a typical dad.
But can you imagine?
Yeah, don't get on my nerves, and you have a good. I didn't get whoopings or nothing. Just Yeah.
But can you imagine that he was being human for the first time? I have a friend of mine who's on Instagram right now, and she reminds me because she was one of my supervisors, and she always says this. She says, "You know what? Your experience, just like you are experiencing life for the first time, your parents." Are experiencing life for the first time as your parents. Yep. So can you imagine that human being not having everything together and probably, not really realizing the impact that they might have had on you? This is where that forgiveness starts. This is where that awareness begins. This is where you get to retell the story you want to have and not holding your previous generation hostage with what's possible for the future generation. You get to be the breaker of, what did you call it? The generational
consequence.
Yeah. Okay.
So like you, I grew up trying to protect myself from this abandonment experience from my mom, and my dad didn't love me. And then with the peer age decision with the 14-year-old girlfriend that there's something wrong with me, I became a player. But I didn't think I was a player. I'm just trying to
look for love.
I'm looking for love. But when I felt like that girl was going to leave me, I didn't conversate with her. In my mind said she going to leave you. So I'm like, okay, well, let me go protect myself. But my partner's like, man, are you a player? You got 2 girlfriends. I'm like, I'm not no player. But that's the label that society gives us when you're behaving in such a way. But nobody takes a step back and say, are you all right? Are you dealing with something? Like,
Right.
what's going
How
on?
did you get here?
How did you get here?
What made you become this person? These are questions. Let me tell you something. You see that question of identity? Who am I? These are questions that people most of the time are afraid of. And the reason they're afraid is not because they're afraid of the fact that the question would come up. They're afraid of the answer.
Yeah.
They're afraid of what might come up if they actually got the answer.
That's why you got to be willing to tell the truth. And as you discovered, it wasn't a good thing of what I was doing. So then I'm 40 trying to do damage control.
You knew how you felt. They didn't know
how I felt.
They thinking you living it up. Always the homie that has all the girls, or you think got it all, is the ones in the most pain.
Suffering the most pain. You said suffering in silence?
Suffering in silence. Because that's what I can't even say black men. That's what all men do. Because when you look in the Caucasian household, that white man got to be quiet too.
Thank you.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Is important. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? I know. I got a question.
Go ahead.
So when I really look into the study of minority awareness, the first question that usually comes up is racism. Okay.
Of course.
So how would you say racism has shaped your view of yourself?
Real quick, I found my peace in racism because I understand that it's a belief system, and I don't believe that, right?
Yeah, we're not talking about the healed folks in the now.
Yeah. Go ahead, we got like 2 minutes. Go ahead. We got 2 minutes, so you got to do it in like 30 seconds.
To be honest, I don't even know. I can't jump into that a lot because I just never really. I don't know too much about it.
Yeah,
about racism.
It's just everything that comes with it. Because
it's a lot to process. No question.
It is.
No question. But
that's a good place to be, though.
Yeah, but it is. But it's not. Because a part of it is you want to raise up to an awareness where you could say, you know what, I know what that is. I choose to be. But how do you choose if you don't even know what exists before the choice, right?
Exactly. Robert, real quick, what you got to say about that? 1 minute. What you got?
I mean, when I dealt with racism, it was always on some ignorant stuff. So I mean, I never really wanted to, kind of stay in that wheelhouse because there was never nothing really good in it. I mean, I dealt with it with jobs and stuff, and it happens. But end of the day, I just really never really put too much energy into it. That's just me personally.
Yeah,
Alan.
For me, I mean, when George Floyd happened, it hit me that I had my encounters with racism because I had been stopped by the police, and I can't tell that story right now because we're out of time. But just it hit me that, wait a minute, you've been having these experiences, but you put them in the back of your head. Because I'm kind of like Robert, I'm like, I don't have to deal with your racism. What I realized is I needed to process that information so that I can decide when it shows up. How am I showing up next time that shows up in my sphere? So there is a story, and I asked the question not just to stump you, but to really, really cause you to think. I wonder what impact that had, because you get to choose how you're gonna react the next time. You get to choose who you're gonna be in that process, and if you just do it by default, it does end up being generational consequences. All right, go ahead.
All right, we good. We'll be back next week on the Farron Dozier Show, aka Sports Collective TV, Media, Radio. Shouts out to Robert Lamar. Thanks for hanging out, man. We coming back. You're welcome to come back next week, man, and hang out. We're gonna finish this.
Follow Alain Emmanuel Therapy. I forgot to tell you. Sorry.
Yeah, it was up there. All right, so I'm out of here, fellas. Again, appreciate y'all for hanging out with us tonight. Those that are watching, catch us right here again next Sunday. Shout out to What's the Count.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes, in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Comago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Comago.com to learn how you can get Comago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.